As we start to talk about sketching graphs of functions, it's important to know these 6 basic shapes. These are shapes that you need to memorize, and there are certain points and locations that you need to memorize as well. The first shape is just a basic linear function, this one being y equals to x. Notice that it has a y-intercept of 0 and it would have an understood slope of 1 over 1. This being the case, we know it's a linear function passing through the origin, and it also cuts the first coordinate with a 45-degree angle. The next one is a basic quadratic. Quadratic function means the highest power is 2. Quadratic functions have shapes of a parabola. The basic quadratic, y equals x squared, has a vertex of 0, 0, and it's parabola shaped in the first and second quadrants. The next basic shape is the absolute value function. Absolute value, you have the vertical bars around the x in this example. It's a V shape, so we'd have a point at the origin. We would bisect the first quadrant and the second quadrant. Basic cubic. Cubic means that the highest power on x is 3. Basic cubic function, it goes through the ordered pair 0, 0, curves up in the first quadrant and down in the third quadrant. Square root function, y equals square root of x, has a starting point of 0, 0, curves to the right in quadrant 1. And then the basic reciprocal function, 1 over x, there are a couple of things we need to talk about with it that we will study in more depth later in the semester. But this particular function has something that's called asymptotes. And asymptotes are imaginary lines that your function, it kind of acts like a magnet. In other words, your function gets drawn towards those lines. So one thing that you need to know is there's a vertical asymptote, and I'm going to use a dotted line. It has a vertical asymptote along the y-axis and a horizontal asymptote along the x-axis. So these are, like I said, imaginary lines that your graph can't touch, but it's getting very, very close to. And so on this one, what happens is you end up with these little C shapes in the first quadrant and in the second quadrant. You need to know these 6 basic shapes to be able to graph other shapes that have these basics as their root function.